Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of We Empower. I'm thrilled to have you all with us today. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Let's make today count. In today's episode, we have here Alina Timofeeva, award-winning AI leader, immigrant trailblazer, and voice for women in tech, on a mission to inspire 50 million through resilience and opportunity. Welcome, Alina, here in the show.
Thank you so much, Anabel. Thank you so much for having me today. It's a great honor.
I would like to introduce you with a few words, and
Mhm.
please correct me if I'm forgetting something. You lost your home, you lost your home country with not little more than determination to becoming one of the most
Mm,
recognized voices in AI, data, and digital transformation. Your story is really nothing short of extraordinary.
mm.
You're a LinkedIn top voice, you're a global keynote speaker, and recipient of 8 national awards. And you have advised some of the world's largest institutions. Yet, what sets you apart is not just your expertise, but your mission to inspire 50 million people, especially women and underrepresented voices, to see technology as a path to resilience, empowerment, and change. Today, we will journey with you from the struggles of your early
Mm.
life to the global stages of Davos and beyond, uncovering your hacks, lessons, and mindset shifts that made it all possible.
Thank you so much, Anabel. I look forward to this episode.
Great. Alina, if we start a bit earlier, if you take us back to the beginning,
Mm.
what was life like before you ever imagined a global career in AI and tech?
Yes, I mean, I come from a very simple background, actually in Russia. I was brought up by my grandmother to be a housewife and more serve my husband. So I come from a very simple background without education. I'm the first woman in my family to work. I'm the first woman in my family, to not be a housewife. And I was very lucky to have an opportunity, to study mathematics. I won the Moscow State Olympiad in mathematics, and I went to the Moscow State University for free without any, you know, uh, payment. So I was lucky to have that opportunity. But my first job was actually washing toilets in McDonald's, and there was a bit of, earning the money from the early stage. I recognize, how you come from the very humble beginnings and how you move up. And ultimately, I did have an opportunity to come to the UK, and I'm sure we're going to mention it a little bit, but I had
Mhm.
to apply to more than 1,000 jobs, and I was getting rejection after rejection. So I used to fly, to UK overnight, go for an interview, and then fly all the way back and go to my job back in Russia. It was like very difficult, both financially and also in terms of, getting all these rejections and actually pushing through. But I'm very
Yeah.
lucky that I came and I managed to succeed after some time. I came to UK and this enabled me, to grow fast in my career.
You told me that you stayed tuned and you never
Mm,
gave up, and I think this is one of the skills you have, which is part of your life, by never giving up,
mm.
but stay female with that, or stay female during that, not getting hard and aggressive, or missing or losing the hope of the word, which the word is awaiting for you, right? Um, I mean, you told us a few things from your early life, and this is really impressive how you made your first steps. Um, what did this transition feel like, coming from Russia to London and seeing there that it could be maybe your new life, but seeing that you were rejected? How did it shape your resilience?
When I came to UK, I obviously stood out because I couldn't speak English the same way I
Mhm.
speak right now. I had
Yeah.
a challenge with the language, with the way how I speak, but I was very
Mhm.
diligent in terms of, showing up and
Mhm.
going. It was a very big cultural difference as well. And also, in a way, Russia is not perceived that well in the UK. So there are some of the challenges on the cultural level. But I was, working through it. A lot of it was a lot of hard work and persistency in terms of, learning from the other people, observing how the colleagues operate, how the culture operates, and learning at a much faster pace than perhaps my peers who come from United Kingdom. And I think that the key thing for me is I recognized, the pain of not taking the step and the pain
Yeah.
of, standing behind. So I really wanted to progress, and this was something which enabled me to push through despite the challenges.
I can totally imagine. And I mean, many know that you're an award-winning leader,
Mm.
that you're a top speaker, but not everyone knows that you have also a miss story.
Oh, yes.
Can you share that chapter of your life also with us?
So at some point, I used to think, when I reach 30 and when I get to win all the awards, I'm going to
Mm,
just keep going up. But I've had a few of the setbacks. So the first is, of course, coming and, not belonging within the community. That was first. But then I had some of the challenges in terms of progressing perhaps too fast, which in
mm,
a way also I recognize that I need to look more after, my schedule, my health, and also having an opportunity to not just, work, but actually focus on some of the other areas of my life. At some
mm,
point when I came, I spent time in a refuge, which is unfortunate, but I was
mm,
lucky to kind of push myself back in terms of, doing much more speaking, doing much more service to
mm.
our country and having an opportunity to make an impact.
And do you like to talk about this, or that you got awarded with this Miss Award, or is it something which makes you feeling that it doesn't fit that much because it turns you maybe into an area where you would think that it doesn't fit that much?
Well, I think it's always important to speak about the whole story because sometimes we only see the successes and,
Mm,
you feel that you don't belong because you are having these challenges. And a lot of my story was sharing the failures openly with the community and beyond because I haven't seen many role models doing this.
mm,
And I always thought that everybody is perfect in the same way as we find AI right now creating the perfect models or AI creating the magazines or like even some of the things in the magazine. So what is important for me is to have the full scope so that the colleagues and the people around me see the whole picture.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely, of course. You told me you came to London and you couldn't speak any word of English. I try to imagine that, how it
Mm.
feels. What was the biggest cultural personal challenge you faced arriving in the UK? Imagine the situation when you arrived there. Can you share a story with us?
I mean, the biggest challenge was the immigration, to be honest, because when I was looking for a job, it was challenging because they would always ask me, why are you here? Why are you coming to our country? And it's kind of similar to the situation now with the Brexit in a way that I had to prove that there is nobody else in Europe and UK who can, get my job. So, and I was applying for, analyst roles. So
Mm-hmm.
my key successful part was that I studied mathematics. I was a scientist, but as I mentioned, I couldn't speak the same language. So my hardest part was convincing, the partner or the interviewer that indeed I belong in the country. And I think what I always evidenced is my persistency, in terms of flying to UK, coming here, going interview after interview. For example, in one company, I was rejected 4 times in the same company for the same job, but I kept, repeating, and then I finally got that offer.
Very, very good. And what did the people say when you got the job after four rejections?
Well, it wasn't the same people, so nobody quite knows that it's exactly the same thing. It was so funny because I got three offers at that time, and the rationale is I finally got some feedback. One of the challenges, I was never getting the feedback, but once I got the feedback, I could improve. And actually, I didn't go in that job because I got another two, but I still, at the time, I still, wanted to do it so that I have the options. One of the challenges, as you may know, even with the Brexit now, that if you lose your job, potentially you are kind of not protected in terms of the visa. So you always need to be mindful that, you do the best you can.
I try to imagine this, and
Mm.
I think it's a lot of pressure, and it needs also a lot of vision and resilience that you stay and you continue and you
Mm.
have a dream. What was your dream at that time, which made you that strong? Was it just I mean, because I can't imagine that it was just, I don't want to go back. I don't want to be a housewife in Russia. I don't want to just give birth to five children. I'm knowing you a bit. I think there should be a vision behind it.
I mean, personally, at the start when I came, I didn't want to be a housewife, so that was my main motivation. But I think when I started my journey, I saw so much opportunity. At the time, technology was more of a back office, so nobody was talking around it. But throughout my career, I wanted to make it more visible. So, for example, when I worked with the engineers, with the data scientists, I always wanted, to tell the story to the bigger world, and not so much in the technical way, but more what does it mean? What does it mean for the people? What does it mean for the opportunities, for the risks? And I see that now, 10 years later, we have a lot of discussions around AI and all the public forums, in all the social media, on television as well. But at the time, it was different. So I wanted to really kind of make a change in terms of the types of work I do, the projects, how they serve, the people, how they serve the community, the customers. And I'm very grateful that now we see this change, that technology is no longer the back office. It's technology and the business going together. And we see, how this impacts the customers like you and I.
Mhm. This is great how you describe it because it's just a vision you have,
Mm,
which is more than just a job or just a love to the job. Or no?
mm.
Was there a mentor or conversation that radically shifted the way you saw your career?
So when I started, I wasn't actually that successful. So I tried to go for promotions and I was rejected three times for the next level promotion. So I did have a mentor and I'm very lucky that he is still in touch with me. And, even though I changed the jobs and I changed the companies, I think the challenge there was not so much with the vision, because I think at the time it was more still integrating in the community, but it was definitely somebody who believed in me. And I feel that if I didn't get that belief at the time, it would have been much harder. So I would definitely encourage, the mentors, the sponsors to see not just the person doing the job, but the bigger picture of what they can bring to the community and to the country, and to inspire them, to spend some time on it and to enlighten it in a better shape.
You've told me that it was not easy in the beginning,
Mm,
and I can imagine. I mean, some people say you're kind of fearless, but I think the first time is always the first time. What was the
mm.
first big room you ever walked into? It? How did it feel?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the speaking, because I had to do the presentation in my first job on my first client, and it was very small. I just had to say 1.5 sentences about the project as part of the bigger presentation. And I spent like one day rehearsing it, and I was so stressed. And then I kind of, was very nervous. And I said it, I'm sure I said it, but I got my manager to listen it, his manager to listen it, everybody else to listen to it before I said it. But obviously now you can see that I'm talking without the script, without, knowing in advance. And I'm an introvert, so it was very difficult for me to stand in front of even a small room at the time with the other colleagues, with the people who I don't know, and talk even for a simple, a few sentences, which I definitely knew in terms of the content. So that was one of the challenges. And part of it was the fact I'm an immigrant, I'm an introvert, and also that I don't speak the language exactly the same way.
Really impressive. You received, also impressive, 8 national awards. Which one carries the most personal meaning for you and why?
I really enjoyed the one which is most inspirational person of the year. So this is together with BCS, the Chartered Institute of IT, and essentially they recognize the people who make the change in the community. So at the time, I was doing a lot of mentoring with different organizations like Kajigo, migrant leaders, and I also just did a TED Talk, which was actually about my story, my life story, how I came, how I persisted. And it was such a great response in terms of people similar to me in similar situations that came and said, you are telling our story, our struggles, right? And we really are, grateful that somebody is portraying it and, people are listening to it. So I was really happy that this wasn't just, my award, but the award for us as a community and that the efforts were recognized.
You said beforehand that you had faced failures and that it's sometimes like a like an ocean. The wave has a
Yes,
height
it
and
does.
it goes down, and that's life, and it's of course also great if few more of us would accept that. And both as for growing, no? Both as for celebrating. But what are your top 3 resilience hacks when everything feels overwhelming, or when you stuck in a situation where they thought, oh, I hope I win, and you didn't win?
Yes. I feel I am getting better at it myself. I'm still not perfect, so I can't have the perfect advice. I mean, number one for me is really to keep going and, to wake up every day and to continue making the steps, even if you don't necessarily know exactly where they're going to bring you. I think one thing, and we discussed it, Anabel, when we met, I had a bit of a challenge with the health. So this is a little bit more difficult because you can't really predict, even if you push, you can't say, I'm going to do these 3 steps and I'm going to, be better. And I feel one of the things there comes is more the belief and the belief that this is going to happen. And, some sort of, both the pause and the belief that things are going to change. And I feel, and I hope this will resonate with the listeners, is sometimes when you are in this moment, you don't actually think that the things will change because you are kind of stuck in the situation. And I feel that ultimately what you described, the wave, right? It does happen. The question is just how fast and, how you can push through it without, less emotional attachment.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good answer. Alina, you told me about your hacks, and I like the idea on to see life as a wave or as waves, where you know that after the down there comes the up,
Mm.
and after the up there comes the down, but both is great for learning, right? Do you have a morning or daily ritual that grounds you before high pressure meetings or your day full of things?
So I feel, Annabelle, if I find a perfect solution, I'll definitely share. But at the moment, right, it's literally, one of the techniques is thinking, about the not the positive part, but kind of thinking that you've already done it. So the affirmation behind it. And I'll tell you a story because you probably don't know it. When I met you the first time, I actually really wanted to meet you the second time. And I was like, I'm going to meet you in Davos. And then we sat at the same train in the same thing because I obviously I didn't quite know where you're gonna be, and there are so many people. So it was something which I was thinking about in advance before I came to Davos. And I find that with this intention, you have an opportunity to, to influence. So this is one thing. And the second thing, which is more not the routine per se, but more a thinking, is that you can really influence and attract the people that you interact with, that you want to be part of, the kind of scenarios that you want to be part of. So something which I found is I always followed this gentleman who was global head of innovation in HSBC, and he was my idol when I was like a graduate person. And my husband, who used to work under his department, he was always saying there is no way he's going to talk to me. But I was, I never wrote to the person. I never like interacted directly. But then when I met him in one of the speaking opportunities, he actually now invited me to work together with him. And I know that it took some time and a few years of thinking about it, but it's a great way to also consider that you can be intentional about your circles and the people you meet.
You're absolutely right, Alina. And it's funny because when we met the second time in the
Mm.
train, it was that I dreamt about it the day before. Then we meet the next day, and seeing you was a little bit like a shock in a way, like, oh my God, it turns into real. And yes, I completely agree with you. We use this too little people
Mm.
use this power we have, which is our intuition and which is also our imagination. This is something where I think we would feel and act much, much better and more fulfilling if we know and think about this, that we have this power, because it could act also against us if we just use it without knowing, right?
Mhm.
Um, what advice would you give to someone who feels invisible in their workplace? Because you said this, you wanted to meet somebody, you knew that it will be hard. People, very close people to you, told you, just as your husband, no way. Um, so often people are sitting there working, they wish they could be somewhere, meeting somewhere, but they have no idea, no hope that something else can happen. Yeah, what advice would you give these people?
So I will definitely focus on, first of all, taking your active action where you can. So, for example, with the speaking, I was not invited to do a TED Talk. I applied myself and I got rejection from every single TED Talk that I applied to, TEDx Talk. And then there was a cancellation and they invited me for the speech and I became the most viewed for their particular TEDx and one of the 10 most viewed in that month in globally. So I think that there is always an element of showing the ambition and showing that you are there and you want to meet these people. I did have, situations where, let's say, I was even invited to events, but the day of the event, I was asked not to come because I'm not senior enough. And that was a bit disappointing. But I've always found a way kind of outside. And this is, some of the ways how I managed to get the bigger speeches, the bigger responsibilities, the bigger opportunities. And I feel that once you get, at least the smaller steps, the more you can, talk about them and show them, the more it becomes the reality that, other people invite you to perhaps bigger opportunities or similar opportunities because they already see you in this particular, stage or this particular project. I feel it's very important, in many cases, people don't come to you to offer to you an opportunity, unfortunately. So you have to try to find yourself a way.
I like your honesty about this, Alina, because I know many people which had a really big fight to get things, and
Mm,
um, if you would ask them, they would say, "Oh, it just came there. I was just asked."
mm,
And I think the really, the really big people, the really people which are shining, they don't need to do something. And you're one of these people. And therefore, I really like your honesty and authenticity, because this is not only something which shows how big you are, but this is also about really the right role models, because you you don't learn from people which are just trying to hide how their
Mm,
path was. And nowadays, I think a lot of people think that they just have to take a camera, smile into the camera, say hi, and then it's not far away from being a social media influencer earning millions
mm.
of dollar. And the truth is far behind, or it's far beyond. I think it's important to be in this way, this clear, to give people not only the ideas of what it means to get successful, but also give them really clear advice which helps them on their way. And this is what you do, what I think. Um, you often speak about women and underrepresented groups in tech. Um, what was the first time you truly felt really seen, that after these rejections, after
Mm.
this waves which gave you
Yeah.
the feeling, oh my God, when will come the high again?
Yeah, so I feel in my second job, I had a good opportunity in terms of making a big impact. So I came actually with the knowledge from the previous job, but I managed to build my own responsibility. So I didn't follow the typical route of a manager at the time. I was very proactive in terms of sharing the knowledge which I had from before, building the accounts, building the opportunities, having, the conversations. And I feel that this was ultimately recognized. I feel that the main advice for me was not, to follow the typical structure or the typical route, because ultimately it's harder to get seen that way. When you slightly divert, I mean, you have a risk, so it can go both ways. And I've had instances where, it also wasn't always successful. But I think ultimately it's an opportunity to make an impact and to stand out and to have your voice heard. Something which I've been hearing a lot is because I focus on disabled people, underrepresented groups who are introverted, is the first step, right? Because they feel that they are invisible and they don't, push through. But I think that there is always an opportunity to try to go beyond and to be seen and heard.
Very important, as you are also talking and making your mind about ethical AI.
Mhm.
What does ethical leadership in AI, or also ethical AI, mean to you?
I think that there are a couple of things, right? Right now, there is so much AI and it is happening at a lot of speed, right? So the efficacy is number one, the use cases towards which AI is being used. So you may have heard that it's used in bad ways in terms of creating the deep fakes, creating, the different fraud issues for the banks and for the customers like you and I. So this is the first part. But the second, much more important part is who's building AI. Because if you take a doctor, you wouldn't let an unqualified doctor, a non-ethical doctor, to operate on a patient, right? You would want him to be ethical. You would want them to be, qualified. So in the same way, we want the people who are, building AI, building the models to be ethical. And there is a concept there in terms of diversity of thought, because you have heard different use cases where, perhaps the women on the underrepresented communities are perceived different by the algorithms. So it's very important to have the diversity of thought at the stage of building the models rather than just the consumption and fixing them later on. I feel it's a really important topic just because AI is developing so fast and people are more focused on the ROI, on the speed, on the new releases, and perhaps less on the human side, which is actually something which is going to help us, grow and serve the community.
Yes, all right. I'm absolutely with you. If you could write one kind of rule of tech for the next decade, what would it be?
I think definitely it's an opportunity for technology to be a trailblazer and the equalizer. Because as you know, women at some point, they were like doing the coding, they were developing the programs, but they didn't always get the light and the shine on top of it. But now, I mean, obviously the community is helping as well, but with the AI, there is a great opportunity for technology to be an equalizer. And I feel that we no longer need to have just a few role models. I think it's an opportunity for everyone to contribute for our economy.
That's a good point. You have the mission, or you told me, but also other people,
Mhm.
that you have a mission to inspire 50 million people. Why that number?
I think there is no, it was a little bit of a guesstimate because I just thought it's a big number and I may not reach it, but I have to put a big number. It originally started with my TED talk, and maybe you know a lot of TEDx talks, they just get 1,000 views, 2,000 views, and actually there are very few that get a big number. And I got more than 500,000 views, so I thought, okay, if I do 100 more effort, I'm going to reach 50 million. But obviously, it's about, you know, the message, which is very important, right? And then the authenticity of the message, because this is not just a number which is, you know, just a big number. It's more something which touches people. And as you mentioned, you know, many people go through the difficult times in terms of the resilience. And there is obviously the big focus on technology right now in terms of making it resilient, making it ethical. So I think that this is an important, you know, message to reach the people. And I feel that this is something which will help ground the numbers.
What does success mean to you today? And how has the definition changed from when you started?
I think when I started, I was very much like, I do the best job, I get the promotions, I get promoted every single year. And I did indeed get promoted 4 times in 3.5 years. I think now it's moved much more into serving the community, serving the mission, serving the vision. And I feel that, you know, the opportunity to inspire other people is something which truly sets, you know, my mission and vision apart. Because sometimes when you're in a job, you have a very strict schedule and you work very long hours and you kind of can only focus on that particular task or sets of tasks. But when you think about it much broader, actually their impact on the economy and on the people is much bigger because together, you know, we can make this impact. And, you know, I'm happy that I have, you know, earned my voice in terms of, you know, being seen and visible. But obviously, this is not just me, and there is an opportunity for other people to get involved to share the same message. And I feel that the success would be not just, you know, me reaching however many people, but it's more building the momentum, building the movement so that there is a change in terms of how we perceive AI, a change in terms of, you know, how visible and seen and heard and recognized we feel as underrepresented groups, people with disabilities, people who are introverted, the women as well. And I feel that this change is something which is really going to be a success story.
I like your optimism there. And if you think about the next generation of tech leaders, you already mentioned how important different things are. What gives you hope when you look at these? Do you get their ideas? Do you get their information? Do you see characters, personalities where you think, yes, it goes into the right direction?
Mm. I feel, to be honest, right now there are so many technology opportunities in every country. So I had the luxury of meeting quite a few leaders, and there is a big push in terms of supporting the youth around the technology. I would probably say that number one, it's about the ethical use of AI and the broader technologies. I had an opportunity just yesterday to visit the MISC Foundation in Riyadh, and they were working on different use cases as an NGO or sets of NGOs to, you know, help the community using the technology. I always feel that it's important to kind of step back and see how this impacts. My concern is we have so many technologies, building very fast. So we as humans don't quite understand all the risks and the concerns. So for example, if we take Replica, which is one of the AI tools to build an emotional connection, it could be potentially misused depending on certain cases. So I would say that for the younger generation, they need to be mindful of where they build technology for good. And if there are certain use cases of fraud or deepfakes or, some emotional exploitation, it's important, for the people to be integral enough to kind of to step ahead and to observe and to make a change against this, because there is so much discussions right now that it can go in both ways, and it's important for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Before it ends, I would like to ask you once again, as an expert for also life organization. I mean, I know you're using also a lot of tools. What are your hacks for leadership, for your own leadership over the day, habits or also technical gadgets you use?
I mean, for me, really, it's always learning from the others. So, for example, I started listening to masterclass about from the more better leaders potentially, or the leaders who are considered better leaders. So I'm always learning in terms of thinking that even if I'm good in what I do, there are opportunities to observe others. And it's not necessarily the direct learning of one hack or another hack, but it's even being within the community and, hearing the voices of both from the leadership, but also from the people, my community and the people who are learning, who are coming, the up and coming generation. I think it's something which is really important, the feedback loop in between. And I really enjoy spending time with the youth, as I did yesterday with the MISC Foundation, but as I also do with the BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT, is, hearing their ideas and hearing, what they want to see as the next future leadership.
Thank you so much, Alina. It was a pleasure to having
Mm.
you here. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you again, maybe in the train on the way to Davos. Maybe we get it also done in something more arranged, that we talk before we arrange something. We don't trust our frequencies only alone. So thank you very, very much. And I look forward to our ongoing exchange and the impact we will both continue to make together the world a better place.
Thank you so much, Anabel. Thank you so much.